Welcome back to this week's episode of On the Level Leadership. And this week I want to tackle the 5 things that successful leaders never say and why they don't say them. Successful leaders have a knack. In fact, they have really great communication skills and EI quotients. They know and understand and get just how important it is to find the right words in the right way. In fact, they're very strategic is the phrase that I would use in the words they choose, in the phrasing they choose, and in the tone they utilize when they're delivering a message. So here are 5 things that leaders typically don't use if they are at all successful. And these are the things you're going to want to avoid if you yourself want to become successful if you're not already there. The first is, it's not my fault. Successful leaders are really keen at knowing that they must take responsibility for their actions and decisions, but also often take responsibility for the outcomes of those decisions or the outcomes of team decisions that were made under them.
Entrepreneurs, one more time, I apologize, hands in the air. Let me give you my best tidbit before I leave. 100% of the problems with your company is 100% your fault. You raise your hand and you're an entrepreneur, I promise you the quickest way to happiness and success is 100% blind accountability.
When you blame others or you refuse to take accountability for things, you are essentially deflecting and you're eroding whatever trust you have in you as a leader. And that trust is not just at the team level. It's also from your senior management. I mean, people can read through that. So instead of jumping into that sort of blame game sort of behavior, what I would encourage you to do is to really focus on what did the team and what did you learn from this? And when you're briefing up the line, you can express how these risks weren't identified in advance for a variety of good reasons or bad. And now you've learned from this, so now you can mitigate those risks going forward and that those things will likely not replicate because you learned from the implementation error that occurred. Second phrase that successful leaders don't use, I don't have time for that. Nothing is worse than a manager or a leader who cannot manage their time, who doesn't know how to delegate, who is a dismissive or absentee leader. I've had absentee leaders in my life who I would try to connect with because I had to brief them on something or because I had challenges or issues to manage that I needed their assistance on or their leadership on, and they would avoid me because they didn't have time. And the phrase, I don't have time, my schedule's too busy, I'm too jam-packed, I'm in meeting after meeting, those kinds of phrases are complete and utterly unacceptable as a leader. They're very dismissive and it makes it look like you're not interested in your team or in the growth of the team or in the success of the unit. So effective leaders know how to prioritize their activities and they know how to delegate. So if you're too busy and you don't have enough damn time to meet with your team, guess what? You need to start looking at delegating more. The third phrase that successful leaders never use is, that's not my job. Successful leaders know that they're part of a team and that it is really important on occasion to pitch in and to help out others who might be overloaded with work. When you say that kind of phrase, you're kind of eliminating this notion that we're in it together and it's sort of saying, you know what, you're on your own, survival of the fittest, and that just doesn't really gel. It doesn't create a cohesive working environment. Great leaders are always willing to pitch in. They're always willing to step. Even if it's activities or tasks that are below their level, they're willing to do that. And on the notion of doing things above your level, so by saying that's not my job, say you want to compete to a higher level, say you want to get a promotion. If you keep saying that's not my job and you don't actually demonstrate those behaviors, then how are the senior leaders going to know that you're ready for that role? So being willing to do a bit more on occasion demonstrates your willingness to not just be a team player and to pitch in on occasion, but it also demonstrates that you are actually capable of doing the tasks and taking on roles at higher levels. So saying it's not my job is just not a great thing to do if you're going to be a successful leader. The fourth phrase that successful leaders never use is, this is how we've always done it. Man, do I hate that phrase so much. I hate that phrase so much. It completely kills and squashes innovation. It completely hinders growth. Successful leaders are open to new ideas. They engage those around them. They ask questions. They challenge the process, as Kouzes and Posner would say. So you need to shift or change the phrase that we've always done it this way to how could we do it better? I used to ask staff at annual meetings often, what are we doing that we should stop doing? What are we doing that we could keep doing? What is it that we're not doing that we should be doing? What are the things that we're doing now that we could do better? These are like simple phrases, but they're really important to start looking at how you can improve the state of play of your organization. Just look at Walt Disney. Walt Disney Company is constantly improving, constantly changing, constantly doing surveys and client feedback, and they take all that information and they adjust and modify. They don't just say, it's always been that way, so we're always going to keep doing it that way. The fifth phrase that successful leaders never use is the phrase, this or that just can't be done. Saying no right off the cuff and not actually rephrasing it in some way is a complete and utter growth killer. Walt Disney used to always say, it's fun to do the impossible. This is the kind of thing that successful leaders know and understand and get in their souls, that even if things look really difficult, there is always a way to manage through it. So instead of saying no right off the bat, this can't be done, why don't you look at how things could be executed differently? Maybe the what you're doing can't change, but the how could be modified or adjusted. Maybe the how doesn't get changed or adjusted, but maybe the timeline, the when, could be influenced and changed and shifted a little bit so that it makes it a little easier for your team to actually accomplish the task. Never say no. Always look for solutions. Here are a few phrases that successful leaders never use that are sort of notable, but maybe not in my top 5 today. Stay in your lane. Man, nothing shuts down a person more than that. If they're trying to do something of yours, maybe it's because they're ambitious. Take a look at why they're trying to get into your lane and understand the rationale behind it, because maybe there's a good reason. Failure is not an option. All right. Failure is an option, and in fact, it's desirable, because if you want to grow and you want to excel and you want to be the best at something, you need to fail.
You know, they're shining a light on the choices I made that worked out, right? The ones that turned out to be good ideas, but I really, really want everyone to know, especially young people, that the hundreds or thousands of dumb ideas that I've had are what led me to my good ideas. You have to give yourself permission to fail.
Failure is an option, and it is in fact preferable, because if you fail, you learn. When you learn, you improve. Could you just fall in line already? Or do what you're told? That is just, I'm the boss, I'm in a position of power, and I don't need you to question me right now. I just need you to do your job. That in and of itself can also shut down employees and really create a situation where they are not feeling very enabled or very valued at work. Sometimes there's a time and a place for that. In emergency management, stay in your lane, get stuff done. That kind of stuff does happen in emergency management because you just don't have time to discuss or argue with somebody on the direction of something. But as you work as a leader in trying to grow an initiative or to be able to build a vision, doing that just shuts people down. If they're challenging the process, then they probably have leadership potential. You might want to tap into that. And the final bonus example I'm going to share with you today is that's not important right now. How many times have you heard that in a meeting where you've brought something up and the leader will say, yeah, that's not important right now. We don't want to discuss that. But what you want to do instead is flip that around and say, okay, I hear what you're saying. That may be important, but right now I want to focus on this. Could we take that up at a different time frame, or could we speak about this after this call? At least give them the opportunity to say what they want to say, even if in that moment it's not the right time. Well, that's it for this week's episode of On the Level Leadership. I really do appreciate you being here. If you're watching this on YouTube, put a comment down below. What kinds of phrases have you heard that were completely inappropriate or that didn't work for you or your team? And if you're listening via podcast, make sure you follow this, because I am here pretty regularly providing this kind of content to help you be the best leader you can be so you can grow in your career. Thanks for being here, folks. Until next time, take care.